The Sweet Taste of Forever. Chapter 1. The Town That Time Forgot. Willow Creek was the kind of place where mornings started with birdsong and ended with the scent of fresh bread drifting from the town square. Cobblestone streets wound their way through rows of pastel-painted buildings, and the gentle murmur of the stream that curved through the center of town provided a constant, soothing rhythm to life. Jessica Harper hadn't planned on falling in love here. She was a lawyer from the city sharp, ambitious, always on the move. Her briefcase was filled with contracts, not dreams. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Her firm had sent her to Willow Creek for a single purpose: to oversee the foreclosure of a failing business, Rico's patisserie. A quaint little bakery that, on paper, was bleeding money. She'd expected to meet a weary old man clinging to a doomed family shop. Instead, she met him. In the end, Jessica and Rico's journey was a testament to the power of dreams, love, and the magic that happens when two people come together to create something beautiful, something that would last a lifetime. Chapter 2. The Man Behind the Counter. When Jessica first pushed open the patisserie's door, a tiny bell jingled above her head, announcing her arrival. The smell hit her first: butter, sugar, vanilla, and something she couldn't name but wanted to taste forever. Behind the counter stood Rico DeLuca, tall, with flour-dusted curls, a streak of chocolate across his forearm, and eyes that sparkled like melted caramel. "Welcome to Rico's," he said with a grin that could melt the coldest heart. "Can I tempt you with a lemon tart, or just small talk first?" Jessica blinked. "Actually, I'm here on business," she replied, trying to sound professional. "Jessica Harper. I'm representing the firm handling your—" "Ah, the Angel of Doom," he interrupted playfully, wiping his hands on his apron. "I was wondering when you'd show up." She frowned. "Excuse me? Anyone who walks in wearing a suit that's sharp isn't here for croissants," he teased. "But would it hurt to try one before you close me down?" Against her better judgment, Jessica found herself seated at a small corner table. When he placed a plate before her, she tried to maintain her composure, but one bite of the lemon tart, and her world tilted. It wasn't just dessert. It was memory, love, warmth, something deeply human that no balance sheet could measure. And as she met Rico's gaze over the pastry case, she realized this wouldn't be a simple assignment. Chapter 3. A Taste of the Past. Over the following days, Jessica found herself returning to the patisserie, at first to review documents, then to clarify some details, and eventually just because she wanted to be there. Each visit peeled back another layer of Rico's world. Photos of his grandmother lined the walls, Lucia DeLuca, a formidable woman with laugh lines and eyes full of light. The town adored her. "She taught me everything," Rico said one afternoon as he kneaded dough at the counter. "She believed pastries were a form of love. You don't just make them, you feel them." Jessica smiled softly. "And what do you feel when you bake?" He paused, dusting flour from his hands. "Hope," he said simply. In that moment, she understood him, the man fighting not just for a shop, but for the soul of his family. Chapter 4. The Plan. The numbers didn't lie. Rico's patisserie was weeks from closing, but Jessica couldn't bear to see that happen. "Not anymore. I have an idea," she said one evening as they locked up. The moonlight spilled across the cobblestones, casting silver over the empty tables. Rico raised an eyebrow. "A lawyer with a plan to save a business? That's new." "There's a national pastry competition next month in the city," Jessica explained. "The grand prize is $50,000. It could clear your debts." Rico leaned back against the counter, skeptical. "Jess, those competitions are brutal. I'd be going up against professionals with teams and sponsors." "Then we'll be different," she said, eyes bright. "We'll tell your grandmother's story. We'll make them feel what this place means." He looked at her, really looked. "We," she smiled. "You didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you?" And just like that, a partnership was born, one forged, not in contracts, but in trust and flour. Chapter 5. Love in Layers. The days leading up to the competition blurred into a whirlwind of sugar and sleepless nights. Jessica traded her blazer for an apron, her conference calls for piping bags. They laughed through disasters, like the time Rico burned an entire batch of eclairs and nearly set off the smoke alarm, or when Jessica accidentally mistook salt for sugar. "Remind me to never let you near the ingredients again," he teased. She threw a dish towel at him. "Remind me to never trust a man who thinks he can bake and flirt at the same time." But beneath the banter grew something deeper. Late at night, when the ovens cooled and the town slept, they talked about dreams, about fears, about the kind of love that scares you, because it feels so real. Once, Jessica caught him staring at her as she labeled pastry boxes. "What?" she asked, blushing. He smiled. "You belong here, more than I do." Her heart skipped. "Don't say that." He leaned closer. "Then prove me wrong." Chapter 6. The competition. The city hall was transformed into a wonderland of sugar sculptures, golden pastries, and nervous energy. Judges in crisp suits moved from table to table, clipboards in hand. Rico's hands trembled slightly as he arranged his final display. Jessica squeezed his shoulder. "You've got this. Just remember why you're here." He nodded. "For Nana. And maybe a little for you." The presentation began. First came the raspberry eclairs, delicate, filled with cream, so light it almost vanished on the tongue. Then the croissant, golden and impossibly flaky. The crowd murmured in admiration. Finally, Rico unveiled his masterpiece, a croquembouche tower, spun with caramel threads that glittered under the lights. Inside each puff was a flavor inspired by his grandmother's recipes: lemon cream, espresso, and hazelnut praline. As he spoke, his voice trembled but grew stronger. He told the story of Lucia, her laughter, her resilience, her belief that love was the secret ingredient in every dish. Jessica watched the judges' faces soften, their eyes glistening. When the tasting ended, the room held its breath. "And the winner," the head judge announced, "of this year's national pastry competition is Rico's patisserie." For a heartbeat, silence, then cheers, applause. Jessica threw her arms around Rico, tears blurring her vision. "You did it!" she cried. "No," he whispered, pulling her close. "We did." Chapter 7. A New Beginning. News of their victory spread like wildfire. Reporters arrived in Willow Creek, cameras flashing as the little shop became a symbol of hope and love reborn. Lines formed outside before dawn. Jessica handled the press while Rico baked from sunrise to sunset. They expanded the menu, blending traditional recipes with new inspirations. A lemon tart called Jessica's Heart became an instant favorite. One evening, as they locked up after a long day, Rico turned to her. "You know, there's something I never got to ask you." "What's that? Are you staying? Or is this just temporary?" She looked around at the glow of the shop windows, the laughter from the cafe next door, the scent of sugar in the air, and smiled. "Rico, I think I've already stayed." Chapter 8. Legacy of Love. Months passed, and Rico's patisserie became more than a bakery. It became a community hub. They hosted baking classes, inviting locals and tourists alike to learn Lucia's recipes. Jessica taught a pastry and purpose workshop for teens, showing them how baking could be both art and healing. And every Sunday, they left a plate of pastries by the window, just as Lucia used to, for anyone who needed a little kindness. One evening, after the last customer had gone, Jessica and Rico stood together, watching the lights of Willow Creek shimmer across the stream. The shop hummed with warmth laughter from the staff in the kitchen, the soft ticking of the clock. Rico took her hand. "You know, Nana used to say, the heart is like dough, it rises best when it's warm." Jessica smiled. "Then ours are perfect." He kissed her softly, the air still tasting faintly of sugar and promise. Epilogue. The sweet taste of forever. Years later, the shop's sign had changed slightly. It now read, "Rico and Jessica's Patisserie. Love in every layer." Children pressed their noses against the window, marveling at the pastries inside. Travelers came from miles away just to taste the legend that started with a lemon tart. Jessica stood by the counter, watching Rico teach a young apprentice how to temper chocolate. Her heart swelled with pride. They had built more than a business, they had built a legacy. As the evening sun bathed the shop in gold, she whispered, almost to herself, "We did it, Nana. We really did." And somewhere, in the warmth of the ovens and the laughter that filled the room, it felt as if Lucia was still there, smiling, proud, and forever part of every sweet layer of their love story. The end.